So, hello everyone. Warm welcome to our second webinar of the United Manufacturing Hub. This time with a focus on OEE and energy monitoring and overall how you productively work with the United Manufacturing Hub. I'm Mateusz. I will be your host today. I'm the Customer Success Manager at UMH. Before that, I studied mechanical engineering and was 5 years in a big consulting company, consulting many clients from automotive, pharmaceuticals, food and beverage on digital transformation in the manufacturing space. I'm supported today by Alex, who's going to answer a lot of the technical questions. So please.
Thanks, Mateusz. Hello, everybody. I'm super hyped that so many actually already are in the chat and in the stream. I'm Alex, co-founder and the CEO of the company, studied mechanical engineering, and then quite fast after studies sidetracked, if you want, so into system integration. So had the luck to actually work with Mateusz in his prior role, and we were like the guys doing the dirty work, connecting the cables and the data from the machines to enterprise applications to bridge shop floor data to the application landscape. And that's what we're also trying to do with UMH to everybody who's not yet familiar with what to do. We try to really bridge the OT environment, your systems like your MES, your PLCs, with the IT application landscape to build apps faster and move fast on your digital transformation journey in production. And that we're not just telling that, we're trying to prove it now and build 2 dashboards on top of that and show how you work with the system, how easy it is to really use those advanced technologies in the UMH, but also actually producing bottom line value. And so I'm hyped to have everybody here. And
cool. Thank you very much, Alex. So it's for the agenda of today. Alex already gave a rough draft, but keep in mind at the end of the session, we're going to have 10 to 15 minutes for Q&A. But nonetheless, please just post your messages into the chat. Alex is going to pick them up whenever they fit. Otherwise, we're going to try to address them as much as possible in the last couple of minutes. If there is still something open by the end of the session, we're also happy to do one-on-ones or just reconnect in our community on Discord. Feel free to join there. And yeah, so please use the session as pretty much a bit of a Q&A. And yeah, it's for you, not for us. So let's enjoy it together. So at first, I would love to give you a bit of an intro what we worked on for the last couple of weeks. So for that, I'm just going to give you a quick demo of the latest features that we have. There we go. So as you know, we are an open source IT/OT integration platform with a focus on creating the unified namespace for a manufacturing company. So how we envision the unified namespace is pretty much being designed by ISO 95 hierarchy. So breaking down from enterprise level to specific sites, then to specific production areas, for example, engine block assembly, then specific work cells, and then pretty much collecting your data, which is then very easily accessible over here, including metadata for sensors, units of measurements, and so on and so forth. And then pretty much enabling you to very quickly visualize the data by just clicking over here at the Grafana SQL query to visualize historical data or access over here live data in MQTT and Kafka.
This is also just to reference a little bit the system integration journey, the states that we would love to have back then. So when we were like tasked to build an energy monitoring on OE dashboard, it was cool, but where do we now get the data from? So we need to manually connect to the MES to fetch the data from there, to get a CSV export, to go on with our USB stick and collect the data or collect some Excel sheets. But when you want to build an application, ideally you want to have a good API, so either real-time or historical access, and then just do the analytics / small SQL queries on top to just have the fundamental right information at your direct disposal and not go 80 to 90% of your time in collecting and searching for the right data points. And this, the unified namespace, or it's coined now as unified namespace, is the ideal state that we believe every factory should be in. Every piece of information from the factory should be present with, and then you can build and innovate on top. Yeah.
Okay, so this is pretty much the vision, but the question is always how we actually get there. Yeah? So over here, we now introduce a homepage where we see pretty much the latest messages, alerts from our instances, latest of our blogs, bit of the message, total tags, and so on. And once you want to start with UMH, it's pretty much about adding an instance over here where we can define specific locations of the site area and so on, so where this instance is located. But the magic really happens here now later on when you then start connecting your devices. So very simple over here. For this one, you just connect with over the IP address, the right port, create the connection, and then immediately see the latency, is the connection working well. So you have already some basic monitoring capabilities to identify if the connection is stable, where the issues might come from, and so on. Once you have that, subject matter expert can very easily access this connection and then contextualize the data and pretty much read out the data points. So for this, we have tons of templates over here with some native for S7, MQTT, OPC UA, Modbus, and so on, and many of the classic IT interfaces you can imagine. So to also enable you to connect, for example, over SOAP to SAP, any other, pardon me, CMMS system, for example.
Yeah, the vision is definitely also bidirectional. So yeah, this is a workflow for getting data from the shop floor, but also perhaps another webinar, how we show it, how it's done. But you can also use that data from the unified namespace now to push it against certain interfaces, like an RFC call in SAP that you can now start a new work order or confirm the action that it's done. But we want to enable you to easily get data in there, get data out there, and work on top of the data that you already have. And Mateusz now shows you the get data in there flow. Yeah.
Exactly. So just in the OPC UA example, most of the stuff over here is pretty much filled out already. You enable subscribe to the full OPC UA folder with I equals 84, and then contextualize the data a bit into the UNS. Yeah. So where is the machine positioned? Which production line is it, and so on and so forth. And then within a couple of seconds, you immediately see it in the unified namespace, and then from there on, access it. So this is pretty much what we're currently doing. I think there are some minor hidden features and so on, quality of life improvements that some of you might have seen. But I think this is the most important part of the intro. So, and now that you got a bit of an idea over here, I would like to go over what we want to specifically do on the OEE and energy monitoring use cases. So for this, I prepared a Notion page I will share after the webinar with you, so you can access all of these instructions with pictures and the specific codes, and most importantly, the templates in a JSON format, which can very easily import into the Grafana over here after the webinar. Yeah. Also, all of the articles that I'm going to show you as a theoretical reference will be listed over here and all linked to our Discord. So after a bit of preparation, setting up the instance and so on, we're going to pretty much start with setting up the Node-RED demo. So for this, the idea is pretty much to enable you to get a really quick idea on how to use the platform. So what functionalities are there, how do I actually properly configure it, and so on. And for this, we just created a machine state simulator and a power state simulator because we know that you cannot just immediately connect to your local infrastructure and then like give it a try with live data. A lot of times it's way too complicated to grasp the basic concept. So this is pretty much an off-the-shelf simulator you will have over here. Yeah. So you can just import it as you usually do. And
Mateusz, give me a second. Some people report that you see that they see nothing on the screen.
Then let me reshare it very quickly.
Yeah, actually, good call from Pictured. If you do it, go on YouTube. We also, in the chat, you cannot see the link. Click on that. There you can definitely watch it with screen shared. Has to do something with Zoom. Oh, sorry.
All good. So I think we are back on Zoom, I hope. Otherwise, let us know. So just to give you a quick intro to the simulator. So you see over here that we are creating a product with a specific payload.
Can you zoom in a little bit?
There we go, way better. So we create a payload. Today we're going to be producing cakes with a cycle time of 5 milliseconds. Don't ask me what factory that is, but we create products, create work orders over here, which after a bit of delay are then being started. Then in the meanwhile, the state generator creates different machine states with a specific probability to it. So we're talking about maintenance, cleaning, changeover, and so on. So the usual suspects. And then creating specific payloads with the machine states over here. And then after some time, closing the orders and in the meanwhile adding, for example, count data, so when was produced something, and also bad count, so pretty much the scrap rate over here. Yeah? So this is like the very small essential piece of how a machine is going to work, and all of this data you will see over here.
And this is also where we see Node-RED. Yeah? So this is actually like a really, really good case on why Node-RED is so powerful. You already see it's a little bit, I would say, confusing, the amount of nodes that you have. Now try to scale it across different sites and different lines. It gets messy, but it was ridiculously easy to prototype in here. Yeah, so you can build like a simulator, you can build a dashboard with the Node-RED plugin there to validate the value, also with the UMH, and from there then move it into a more, I would say, enterprise-ready, easier to scale model. But Node has its advantages for HMI, or model trash talk. But this is also how and why we love Node-RED and why we ship it with the stack.
Mm-hmm. And on the top, you have additionally the power consumption simulation, which is very similar, just a state simulation with specific weights to it. And based on the state, we generate a random power curve that somewhat fits to it. Yeah. So later on, you have very nice data and see immediately if whatever you want to visualize is correct or not. So this is part of the template that you will see. So now that we have pretty much set up the data source, yeah, to this extent, as you see, we're just sending all of the data to our integrated MQTT broker. Let's now talk about some basics, how we'd collect, transform, and integrate all of this data into something that is, allows us to create a meaningful, super insightful dashboard on OEE and energy monitoring.
Because data that coming from the shop floor is never clean. Yeah? So it's always different, always ugly, always malformatted. And now we can show you how you integration example. So not the golden key here, but we want to give you a bit guidance on how we think you can structure those data points and innovate from there.
So just a few details to the unified namespace. So as said, we are structuring it with the ISO 95 hierarchy. So we're going from enterprise to site, area, production line, and so on and so forth. And the trick in our stack is that we also have schemas. Schemas are pretty much predefined functions which define what is going to happen with the data once it's reached a specific topic. So a very simple example, in Historian, we pretty much save the data in a historical database. Yeah, so for this we have in the Historian the asset table, which is the centerpiece. So this is pretty much where the asset ID is stored, which machine was it, and then two tables that are connected to it, tag and tag string. And specifically tag includes pretty much all of the values, timestamp, and the values that you want to share. So very cool for simple process data, could be for a CNC or like, whatever manufacturing production line where you would like to collect positioning, temperatures, voltage, and so on and so forth. Yeah. If you have specific string values, of course, just use in the string table automatically.
What's also super interesting there. So normally you would imagine, okay, I put in a database, now let's make it a table, everything in once, a value, timestamp, asset, site, area, line, whatever. But the problem is that you increase unnecessarily the size of the database and also limit a little bit the scalability and performance. So we say we split up across two tables, one for the value, one for the asset ID, and then you match via the ID those two tables together and have therefore less overhead, more performance, etc. And we already thought about that for you. And this is what we want to do with the UMH to optimize and automate actually the user journey, especially with this complicated stuff.
Yeah. And of course, just storing historical data is quite a simple use case in that sense. But what additionally we have is pretty much analytics. So _analytics pretty much enables you to store data in additional tables. The tables that we have over here is once again the asset table, which is the centerpiece. But we then also have space for work orders. We have a product type table, which includes the cycle times, asset IDs, and then product, which includes specific data on the batch itself, so start time, end time, quantity, scrap rates, and so on. And additionally, two tables on shift and state. Yeah, so with this, this is a great starting point to pretty much enrich your historical data with additional information on your manufacturing processes. Of course, for some companies, it's rather a starting point, but I think for most companies, it will be a great first step to visualize the most important details from MES data, ERP data with the machine data that you will receive. Yeah? So additionally to this, now the big question, how to actually send the data to the analytics. So the cool part about analytics and historic in general, as long as the payload is correct and the topic name, everything is then automated. Yeah, so the SQL table is populated properly, and then if you want to, example, also change automatically values, also everything is standardized over here. Yeah, so you don't break the database, but pretty much get immediate feedback if your payload is incorrect.
It's also automatically batched. Yeah, so we don't insert for every new message a new SQL statement, but we take it, batch it, put it in there at once, and therefore also increasing scalability.
So if you want, for example, to use some of the functionalities that we over here, it would be _analytics.workorder.create, for example, to create a new entry in the work order table. Then to start, we send a message to start. So pretty much the timestamp is included for the same. And it's also then the end timestamp is then included once you pretty much send a message to stop. It is very similar, product type, product, and so on. And the cool piece is also that for states, you can add in the database a specific machine state, but also then overwrite it. This is very cool if your operator has an HMI where they can pretty much change specific machine states, update them depending on their insights they have from the shop floor, because a lot of times people out there just know way better what's happening than just you with an error code that you received automatically. So these are the capabilities of analytics, where you can pretty much update and store way more complex data. And for me, a quick little remark. So we are always standardizing the machine states. Yeah? So for this, we have a couple of standardized states that you see over here. For example, active, so machine is running and producing, is then the 10,000 compared to, for example, unknown stop would be the 30,000 for us. Yeah, so this is how we pretty much ensure that what you push into the unified namespace is also very easily digestible by whoever is seeing it, and also allows you to create templates for OEE and so on, which you can actually reuse. Yeah, because you don't want to work with dozens of standard like Weinstefan, Euromap, and whatever, and then pretty much have them all in switch cases implemented in any templates, but you really just want to have always the same machine states that you always in the same manner transform and process. So also super cool to standardize if you want to finally have to talk in a company about how you calculate OEE or already had it. You pretty much set up the states, define what is what, and from there on, you can work with the standardized template. Okay, so this is to that. Let me just take a look at my notes. This is done, this is done. So this is the actions that we triggered. Okay, so pretty much this was the theory part. Yeah, so now this will give you a bit of a perspective on what we want to do over here. So in the management console itself, as you remember, we had created a machine data simulator. So all of the topics are filled with data, and we have some somewhat standardized payloads. So how we would now access this. So over here, you would then connect to your MQTT broker over here. Just then, the IP address and so on will be different to you. And then over here, as you will see in the Notion template as well, you will then have pretty much the configuration file. So over here in the input, we subscribe to all of the topics that we created. So as you see over here, it's going to be work order state and so on. So all of the topics that we're sending data to.
And why we're not directly working with Kafka? Should I answer this question?
Go for it.
So, because we believe that there will be more and more actually OT equipment that can communicate via MQTT. So we really love MQTT, and we believe this is actually a good interface to the interface, so like to the machine protocol. And therefore, we also would now have like an DCS or like PLC that is a really new one and can already publish via MQTT. But now we need to move it into a standardized data format. And this is why we're not directly working with Kafka as a stream processor, but loop it through MQTT to make it from something to a data contract.
Yeah. Thank you. So afterwards, we pretty much subscribe to all of the topics. Over here, you will see that we have quite a huge file over there. So at first, of course, you want to define the unified namespace, so where the data should be located once it reaches us. So we define over here the enterprise, the site, area, and so on. And as we are subscribing to a bigger space, could be, for example, also an OPC-UA server, which includes a lot of production lines and single machines and so on. We have this switch case over here, which depending on the topic, pretty much defines what is the work cell. Could be also on a higher level, what is the line, what is the area, and so on and so forth. Yeah. So very simple. So you see, we then define, okay, work cell is oven, conveyor, assembly, and so on. And now we come to the schema. So as you remember, we had the two schemas, historian and underscore analytics. So when we had, for example, talk about counts, bad counts, we of course just sending it to historian. And if we are talking about starting a work order, we define now underscore analytics dot work order dot create, so that this payload of that topic is being sent to this underscore analytics, and from there on automatically written into the database or updating specific values. Yeah. So, but of course, as we already taught, a lot of the payloads you will receive are not standardized at all. Yeah. So sometimes you may be lucky, can define how specific data points are looking or which data points you are extracting. But of course, we also have an option over here that you can define your payload or transform it. So as you see here in one of the examples, you can very easily within blob-lang define a new payload, just define a variable. And as you see over here with this, you can reference the payload that you're receiving for the specific topic, and then take out some of the pretty much the IDs, for example, production numbers, quantities, and so on and so forth. So we do this pretty much for every single topic that we receive, and then we can save and deploy. Yeah. So all of this is in a template that you will see. Feel free to play around with it, explore it a bit more, but I think with the switch cases and so on, it's quite easy to understand.
And this is also why we are like in this compromise in between no code to code, and we really like this YAML and code approach on the protocol converter, because firstly, I think it's enough to get you started easily. So yes, you need to code, but the logic in there is inherently code, switch case, etc. If you do a UI on that, it will be painful. But you can also easily scale. Control A, Control V works. You don't need to button clicky, etc. through the tools. So we believe that this YAML-based Dockerized Bentos container, which can be then easy to use by the management console, but also easily to be scaled because it's a Docker container with configuration file. So yeah, this is how and why we do it.
So what we pretty much, let's sum it up what we did. So I gave you a bit of an intro into the basics of how we work, what's the data structure, what's the database, and so on, and the functions of analytics and historian. Then we talked about how to connect, how to process the data that we receive, and now we pretty much have it in our tag browser over here. Yeah, so we're also doing some checks over there depending on the schema. If for example, I have
validating the schema, so that not everybody is now sending a timestamp in not Unix, but in like, I don't know, a NATO time or whatever he's up to. So it should be also validated and checked specific schema that it's actually consistent, and then you can take actions if it's not.
Exactly. So here, for example, the power one, I did it correctly. So now we see over here what data we receive. And yeah, from here on, you can, as said, just easily copy this data and visualize the curve that you see over here. But let's now talk about a bit more complex use case.
So it's not for monitoring, it's more for troubleshooting this historian graph. And this is actually what you get from the PLC of the Modbus. It's not that you now have like an, I don't know, manager looking at that to make insightful decisions. Therefore, we have
Grafana and some of the dashboards that we created. So over here, let's start first with the OEE monitoring dashboard. So on any good OEE and production management dashboard, you will have, of course, OEE, current state of the machine, current orders, counts, scrap rates, and so on and so forth. And of course, also work orders. So what's my production plan, for example? What is the historical states of my machines or my production line itself? What orders were working from what specific time? Yeah, so all of this is included in the machine state simulator. So over here, as said, just a running state. So let's just take a look how we pretty much read it out. Yeah, as you see, we just copy paste the Grafana template SQL query that we have from the UNS, limited by 1, and then pretty much have all the latest set already. Yeah, very similar to the current order and the product. In that case, we are referencing now the work order table and the product table, and then join them once again for the specific assembly asset, and then visualize it over here. So I think for most of you, very familiar with SQL, no big deal.
And also compatible with your favorite chatbot. And we started with a drop-down interface back then, but for somehow a lot of our customers and users just defaulted to SQL. I think it has two reasons. Firstly, it's maximum customizable. So if you want to adjust the query, do classical historian functions like mean, moving windows, average, etc. And this is so easy with SQL. And also, it's fully compatible now with the newest generation of chatbots or large language models. So describe what you want to do, describe the APIs that you provide. And even for more complex one, Mateusz will get to it, you can actually iterate quite fast to a more complex analytics KPI than you would be via a clicking interface. Yeah.
Exactly. So just pretty much the transparency that I can decide and know what's pretty much happening. Yeah.
And as technical person, you want to have it.
Yeah, exactly. Because we all know every single manufacturing process looks different because it's a growing process, growing company, and you have your specifics. So over here, for example, a bit more complex, where we also once again reference work order, product type, and so on, but nothing groundbreaking. But I think the most interesting part is now how flexible you are actually with calculating your OEE availability, quality, and so on. Yeah. So if I just scrolled up a bit here, so what we have for this is going to be availability. So what we do over here, we just take the states of the machines. We take their start time, identify when there is a shift to a different state. By that, pretty much create a start and an end time, and then summarize the duration of the specific state. So we have for each state a duration, and then it's just as simple as summing up the specific state, in that case 10,000. As you remember, this is the state where the machine is running, and divided by all of the duration of the other states. And then, boom, we pretty much have a very simple availability. Yeah. For example, other than that, quality, as simple, total counts, summarize it, bad counts or the scrap rate, and then divide it. Suddenly we have quality. And here a bit more complex calculation is when it comes to performance. So in our example over here, very similar to availability, how we handle this. So we define time frames in which the machine had a specific state or a specific speed or performance by that. And then define based on the state, what is the performance value. So for us, in our simple example, it's 10,000, we're running at full speed, 30,000 is we're running at lower speed. Yeah. But of course, you can also reference the actual machine speed over here, right? So you will have the historical data, just throw it in here, define what's the maximum, maybe even create an average over time, or like you can maybe even in the batch, in the product, you can define what should be the actual production speed and so on. You can reference it all. You're super flexible to create your own KPIs over here. Yeah. So, and when it comes then to OEE, as you can imagine, it's just pretty much the same calculation, but then we just multiply it. Yeah. So once you have all of these three, super straightforward. So then one of my favorites, the state timeline. Super powerful just to understand how good the production is running, but one of the simplest queries you can have. Yeah. No, and on the bottom, you also then have pretty much the orders. So the cool part is now, let's just take this. This one looks interesting. So this is the product, this is the production order. Now you see how did my machine perform? Yeah. So for this specific time frame, what was the count? What is the scrap rate? What is the OEE? What was the last state? And then like what were pretty much all of the states that we have. You see that we have some changeover over here, operator breaks and so on, either in percentages or even calculated as minutes, all possible over here. Yeah? And I think now the super cool part comes over. So there is now, there are some couple of very cool widgets now in Grafana, which allow you to be super flexible with what you do with it.
The open source folks, yeah?
So, yeah, definitely. I'm happy to reference them. It's like Volkov Labs, business forums, amazing
really
tool.
Strong, yeah.
Amazing tool, yeah. And what allows us pretty much to create custom input fields and then create also custom payloads that we are sending, for example, to the SQL database. Yeah. So in that case, let's assume we are now an operator at a machine. We see, oh, this is the machine said it was in cleaning state, but it was actually running, or it was actually in a different state like maintenance and so on. So in that case, you pretty much click on the state, you select the state over here, cleaning, and then just zoom out a little bit. You'll see it. There we go. And then I can redefine the state, just from a drop-down menu. Let's say just running this one, running. There we go. So this is pretty much immediately what we had. So if I just go back, now we see state is gone, we are running. And of course, you can define the drop-down menu over here as much as you want. You can create free-form text fields if you want to add additional details and so on, which is super cool. So pretty much can now adapt the data, get an operator input, additional insights from the shop floor, which is, I think what we were looking for quite a long time now.
And also, if you're asking yourself the time how you can, as a technical person, loving the idea of the UNS, but missing a little bit what you could do with it, answer to the business side. I think this dashboard is specifically to plant management and plant operations is like a good thing. Theoretically, they have all of that, but as soon as they're able to open on their phone and on the Sunday evening, already can see, how my production went over the weekend, good or great. It's actually a huge value add for them. It can make them faster. It can make them more efficient by making decisions. So I think a low-hanging fruit use case, and often also the ones that our customers start with, to create this transparency, what a lot of operations and business people are seeking.
Yeah. So just be aware, also in the template, all of this custom code here is included where we create the custom SQL query. So feel free to play around with it, explore, and so on.
We have already a question from Diederik. Is the business form you write the result of the operator input back to the timescale DB? Yeah, so you're connecting to that directly timescale, but you build it.
Yeah, so exactly, immediately to the timescale. We're not going over Kafka or MQTT. I think this would be amazing feature for Grafana if we could just throw it in there. But let's see what the future brings. We maybe come up also an idea how to bridge it over there. But alternatively, what we're currently also working on is have a historical database to Kafka bridge. So whenever we update the database with new values, we then also update Kafka just to ensure that you pretty much have also the live data in your central data source of truth.
We really believe that this unified namespace is also extending to the database. And we already bridged MQTT to Kafka to have like both technologies available on the same data set. But timescale, we're only pushing it in. But to really make this one place to put all your information in, it should also be pushed back to the event hub, to the MQTT and Kafka broker, to really synchronize all the data on the shop floor.
Cool. Any other questions?
There was one also from Diederik. Thank you. He is super interested in the cyber chef from the management console and what you could actually do with it.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Perhaps you can get back to the, I've already prepared an example. You can click.
You already prepared an example.
Yeah. So, but I need to therefore activate the demo mode. Problem, not every piece of information that you get from the tech browser is easy to understand and easy to transform. So for example, you get like a humongously long payload, like a JSON and XML struct, or even worse, like a hex or base64 encoded whatever. Don't have any base64 method yet at my disposal, but try to demonstrate it on that here. So you get the huge payload in, but you want to understand the content even more. So you bridge it into CyberChef. It takes this information piece from the tech browser, puts it here, and you can do a lot of transformations. So as it's a JSON, you could do JSON beautify. So you can directly take that and have it a more readable format. I think you can also do can you do XML? Let me never tried that. So XML, no, there's no path conversion from XML, but you can take data from the tech browser, push it into CyberChef, and then do basic conversions based on type or whatever.
Okay. And you pretty much just drag and drop stuff over here, get immediately an output, which is very cool if you get something from a Modbus server or something.
Yeah, like something randomly encoded in base64 or like a bit array or whatever. Take it there, understand it, and then do the functions that help you bring it in an understandable state back to the protocol converter or into the stream processor of Bentos, and then have only nice data in the tech browser as a resulting step. Yeah. So a little bit data ops, some people call it, whatever, data understanding, data manipulation, easy at your disposal.
Cool. So now in that case, I would quickly jump now to the energy monitoring dashboard that we also have. So as you remember, we were collecting power data based on machine states. And for this, we created this dashboard over here. So now you see on the left-hand top side, our 3 assets. So we're talking about conveyor belt, an oven, and the assembly. And of course, you see very quickly that the oven is the biggest consumer of energy, either as a pie chart or as a bar chart over here. And we also calculate the overall energy that we pretty much consumed in the specific time frame that we selected, calculate some costs. You can probably very easily, just the kilowatt, the price for every kilowatt hour that you get. Suddenly you have the pretty much the cost over here. You can also do some aggregations on daily, on weekly basis, which can be very cool if you want to see specific trends for individual asset. So some of the assets will depreciate in a more like a mechanical sense. So you will see that they will slowly ramp up their energy consumption just to work to the specific process values that you set them to. And then, at some point, hey, I should maybe get a new asset or do some maintenance on it and so on and so forth. So pretty much get very quickly the transparency. You then also see it over here. So we combined the individual energy consumption with the machine state, which is super cool. As you then see in what state, how does the machine perform. I think the next step would be also to add the orders. So you also understand if how much does the order actually cost? Because a lot of times you just produce something, assume like a standard value for the machine cost, but for one specific order, it's like way more expensive because you need more energy, more heat, and so on. So just getting the transparency on the actual cost can be also super helpful over here, just by checking the energy, creating some nice dashboards over here,
and translating again into business. So you have the UNS, you have all the data, but now data is not in self-fulfilling profitability thing. So take that data, make it more applicable for the business side, and build some great dashboards. And you can also have them on board, OT, IT, and the business, to really see the benefits of the UNS and show them how fast you're actually able to build use cases. It's normally for them, okay, let's do a use case, let's get a system integrator in there, let's allocate 6-figure budget, let's allocate 6 months. But with the UNS, you can do it in the afternoon, even less, to just give them answers to complicated questions via the UNS.
Yeah. So very classically, we integrate to such energy meters over Modbus. It's a bit of an older technology, but still super common in this space. For this, we have a native connector. So there you can connect over the specific IP. Port is typically 502. You can add all of the reg IDs, because a lot of times you have Modbus RTU being used to connect to a master gateway, and then pretty much you connect to the master gateway over there. So we can pretty much collect all of the data from there, have it immediately in Namespace. And as you've seen over here, just the power curve is super powerful when it comes to generating business value for your company. And this you can pretty much do, like the connection itself, within a couple of minutes. And then such a dashboard, especially now that you have a template, you might be done within an afternoon, and then can already talk about business to business people, or to whoever you want to talk to.
Also another, I'm not sure if it's a question or statement by Brian. So he said, like, the CyberChef example would also be great for base 64 encoding of images. Actually, fun fact, we did that before. So when we were system integrators, there was also a use case. Now we have like a machine learning model. We have an IP-based camera, move data from the IP-based camera into that model. And therefore, we also use the UNS to fetch it, encode it in base 64, and push it to the UNS, and write then like an integration pipeline into the model. Like you also said, there is, I think, a business image plugin also for Grafana. So you can fetch it in via SQL, because it could be inserted, and then decodes base 64 also then on the front end side. This could also be a great thing to do. So UNS is not only machine data, it's also relational data. And in the future, I'm sure it will also be images from specific AI applications or similar to deploying on the shop floor.
Exactly. I think you can easily include such a payload in the Kafka itself, maybe increase the limits a bit.
This is also where Kafka was built for. So this is
it's not. So should be very easy. Okay, I think this is pretty much mostly it to the use case templates that we have. And I think now we would take a couple of minutes to talk about your questions. So just feel free to drop whatever. If you have questions to these specific templates, or to some other part of our stack, or general interested in success stories, use cases that we have in mind, or so on, please let us know. And because this time is not pretty much for you and also for us, because we're always interested in what you're working on and what you're interested in.
Yeah, this is also what we are trying to get with this examples. Yeah, you can take it if you're a system integrator, if you're an end user, take it and build something cool already, and then show how powerful it could be. Yeah, and another, I'm not sure if it's a question, but again, a statement from us. Why or can you put it on the recording on YouTube? Yeah, we'll do. So it will be recorded, will be a bit edited, and then put onto YouTube. So a lead time, a few days. But if you found it interesting and want to rewatch, you can do. And then you can share also with your colleagues if they might be interested.
Cool. I remember we also have a little poll just out of pure interest. If you're already working on one of these use cases, already have something in place, would be super cool just to have your opinion on that, how relevant today's topic was for you, and if you're currently working on it.
Another question that hit me was, why did you choose TimescaleDB? By actually experience, we started with InfluxDB because these are flues. So classical Ming stack, Mosquito, Influx, Node-RED, Grafana. Then we had a little bit problems, repeatability of queries. Don't want to trash talk again, but message queries with the Flux queries had different results. And they also changed the interface now, I think the second time. So a great product, but boring is awesome, and nothing is more boring than Postgres. And Timescale did the job to make it more scalable and more applicable to time series workloads. And this is why we chose TimescaleDB over Influx. And Jeremy also wrote a great blog article comparing those. I think you should just Google Influx Timescale's top page result. Is there any possibility to maintain version control of management logging or any export function available? So yes, as we are using Kubernetes at its core, every change that you do with the management console is by default logged. We have also Insights Management Console, an audit function. So every user who logs in and changes something, it gets appended into a long log. And the specific infrastructure that you use is also then available via YAML file. So you can export it, put it to a GitHub repository for later use, etc. And the audit function is actually not in the community version. This is an enterprise function, but yeah, this is a classical enterprise feature. So that a lot of trouble with InfluxDB queries and change to Timescale for main complex use cases. Yep. So Louis, we feel you. There was another question from YouTube by Kumar. Is there a Docker container for UMH and Bentos that we can evaluate? Yes. So actually, UMH is a Kubernetes cluster, so that you can actually scale a great workload. But specifically for the UMH Lite version that you're also, I think, referencing to when saying UMH Bentos, this is now available when you not yet fully released, but you could be one of the first beta users. Available via Docker container. Just enable the feature flag inside the management console, UMH and Docker it's called. And then you accept getting like this command, which you need to execute on Rocky Linux. You get a classical Docker container that you can then also use and deploy Bentos on your own. But yeah, we always recommend starting with UMH Classic, the full Kubernetes cluster per site, and then extend by those Bentos containers on your own. So start with the UMH and then also try out the Docker if you want to scale. Oh, the results are there.
Oh, amazing. So very cool. So we have overall a big split between people that pretty much have already both in place, or like to some extent, and then 43% of the people actually not having anything implemented yet. So very cool. It's interesting to see that some people are still interested in these use cases, as apparently they're, I just assume, not super happy with them, with maybe flexibility, reliability, or whatever. And still a lot of people just like not having this, yeah. So pretty much not being able to have the transparency on the shop floor and then solve all of the issues. Yeah.
It's also not rip and replace. Like just give you an example of what you could do with the UNS. A lot of people that we are going into also commercially, they already have OEE. Everybody has OEE. Worst case in Excel, but at least they have it. but showing them how easy it is to build it scalable and on modern technologies, it also excites them even if they have something. So, but if you're happy, why change? And then you can extend with use case that you not yet know. Brian, this is a technical one, Argo CD for the GitOps approach. So how we think that? Yes, Argo CD, cool tool, but try to interface that to classical OT. They know how Siemens works, they know how Beckhoff and Rockwell work, but now give them like a cutting edge Kubernetes CI/CD pipeline tool. Not sure. So you can also use it, but we see the main like management of the CentOS deployments is the management console. So go in there, create a new deployment, deploy, and the whole CI/CD pipeline, if you want so, is automated. But you can also take the Git or take the YAML configuration file of the management console and the management companion config and push it also to Argo CD, so that if you want to also have it there or versionize there, you also can do it, but specifically OT capabilities normally and also classical network problems. We don't, that's why we built the management console and didn't use Argo CD.
Just to add on this, you also under instances and other settings, you have now way more transparency to make everyone's lives a bit easier to manage such a Kubernetes cluster. So over here in general, on the right-hand side, we have the different versions that are part of the stack. Here, Rocky Linux 9.4, I think is going to be approved as a supported version by the end of this day. And then you have additional information about any Kubernetes errors you might have, current physical hardware, so how much especially storage do you have? Yeah, this is a big thing. Also getting an error message or like a warning if you reach 80%, and overall health of modules, database, Kafka, and so on, with cool KPIs on how much data you're pushing already. So I'm always looking at that. If working with new customer, how quick are they? How many tags do they have? It's just
also a bit gamification.
So definitely.
Get it up. Yeah. And Kevin Martinez asked me that he is newer into the industry and is starting experimenting with Arduino and vision case on top of the Arduino, but how can he now interface it with the UMH? Actually, exactly like Mateusz said. So you have, I would say, PLCs or random IoT devices. I would call now Arduino random IoT devices. But now you can take that and there's an MQTT client also in Arduino Suite. So you can model for example, the results of your vision system and push it to the UMH. Yeah. So you can also have it fetched via a REST interface or whatever Mateusz is I think, trying to say you there. It can also pull, but the Arduino can also push the information to the UMH and then see the UMH as your source of the data and the Arduino as like producer of that. Kevin, also join also if you do something cool like that. Also, if not already, feel free to join the Discord. So in Discord, also other people that perhaps done the same and want to do the same, so that you can exchange and ask for help if something goes wrong. Happy to help either we or like super active community members like Diederik or Brian is also super engaged in there. So also thank you for joining both, and all of them.
Yeah, so pretty much you have the Discord link over here. Feel free to join. I think we are now over 900 members. Half of the members are system integrators, and the other ones pretty much users and interested people. So it's a really cool mix of industry experts having different perspectives on current technology, challenges on the shop floor, and so on. So so far, every single question was answered or added with context and so on. So really enjoyed looking at daily over there.
And also what we missed when we started this, what Walker actually did quite well, a community where you can also ask questions. Normally OT is not yet that open on new stuff and talking about it and creating a forum. So they have forums, but we want to create even more than, and one specifically also for like a technical UNS people. And that's what we're trying to provide. So feel free to join. And marketing also give me a hint, please also follow us on YouTube that you can also get the new YouTube videos like product features, like side notes from Jeremy regarding technology comparisons or like a little bit architectural decisions that we made and why. So we try to provide a lot of value there. One before I answer the remaining questions, there's also like a poll again popped up. We try to makes it more regularly. This is also some time invest from us, but we really believe it makes sense to tell us a little bit how we use and how you could use, and what is actually the next thing that you want to see. Yeah, so there's the poll, and yeah, be free to fill it out. How do you show the power consumption of devices without an energy sensor? Yeah, you don't. This is hard. So even if you have the information available on the PLC level, there are Rogowski coils that you can also retrofit with. There are specific vendor providers like Vago who provides the full tool chain. So everything from energy meter, so can consume voltage, you need to do inline, or like current that can you do also non-invasive. But there are also kits to retrofit that.
Yeah, the retrofit kit is pretty much just a clamp you put around the cables and then measure pretty much the ampere. Of course, then you know the voltage typically in your network, and based on this, you can pretty much do some assumptions.
Yeah, you can also do linear assumptions. So what we also did for machines that have like a quite static load. So you know when they're on, they consume roughly 20 kilowatts of electricity. And then you can calculate from the machine state and the different resource consumption then and multiply it just. And this is also like a workaround for, I would say, static assets that you could use. Okay.
So Alex, tell me, what you would be most hyped about as the next topic?
I think the use cases are nice, but what would really new be, perhaps ends the poll, and now I can bet on integration with other platforms, hopefully. Let's see. Yes.
Yeah. Good guess. So really cool. Actually, the use cases and real life user stories and success cases have the same number of votes, but I was super interested in integration with other platforms. As we said, everything possible with the benters connected that we have over SOAP, HTTP, and other interfaces.
We have also something coming up there on the feature side that will make it even easier. Unsure if we can ship that feature, to be honest, until the next webinar. But let's
see. We definitely have it now on top of our mind.
Yeah.
And the next 1 to 2 webinars, would love to talk about this topic because it's close to our heart. As SAP is such a big name, such a big system, and a lot of companies that the question always comes up, and we will have to
and also
the answer.
There's also a lot of things soon out of life. Yeah, so you have like these or end of life. Like the classical tools like SAP Pico that you normally use for like communicating from the MES to the shopware, who are fading out soon, and a lot of people are rebuilding the MES stack across that and also think, why should I have an MES or a UNS? So think more in MES as function blocks that you use for scheduling, etc. And the UNS as the integration layer in between ERP, MES, and the shop floor. And yeah, so integration to those tools, absolutely top of mind.
Yeah.
Also with a lot of our customers.
Yeah, also super interesting discussion. Like what functionalities do you want to have in an MES nowadays? Because when it just comes to OEE calculation monitoring and so on, maybe something like Grafana or a different tool that we want to use could be way easier to handle and scale over the organization compared to an MES. So yeah.
What is an MES? Yeah, so now my opinion was the only tool that were allowed on the shop floor. So like you pushed every use case and every data point in there. But it's based on our own database and mostly run on the Windows servers, for scalability and ease of use are not that top of mind. And then you build like a lot of scheduling, monitoring, shop floor connectivity functions around it. But now, 20 years after that, about 15 years after the technology is actually a lot farther. And therefore, I think MES will be diluted down into the components and the use cases that are, I would say, shop floor specific. And UNS will be the central integration platform on the shop floor and sitting aside of the MES. Yeah, well, time will tell.
Okay, I think we are slowly but surely and running out of time. It was super fun to have you tonight. It was more like noon for the US, late afternoon for Europe. So it was super cool to have you here, answer your questions. Also looking forward to see you in the community, have more questions, maybe also some answers, be part of an active part of it. And yeah, also looking forward to see you in the next webinar. We're gonna schedule it soon with super interesting topic. We now pretty much know where you want to go. So let's see what we can make happen. Yeah, thank you very much for your time. Hope to see you soon.
Thank you, Mateusz.